Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a shortcut, really, into a pretty massive challenge facing the global economy. It's about data fragmentation, specifically in agriculture, a huge, crucial sector.
Absolutely huge.
Yeah, and our sources, they're pretty clear on this. Data isn't just, information anymore. It's being called the fuel for economic growth. Some are even saying control over data could shape the next world order, kind of like oil did back in the day.
It's a powerful analogy, and there's truth to it. The ability to leverage data is becoming a strategic advantage.
But here's the thing, the paradox. Agriculture, it's this multi-trillion-dollar industry. It's leaning more and more on precision tech, climate strategies, yet the data underneath it all, it's frankly a mess. Siloed, duplicated everywhere.
Yeah.
Governments, researchers, private companies, they all have their own little pots of data. And the sources call this a strategic vulnerability. Not just inefficient, but actually dangerous.
It really is a vulnerability, because if you can't trust your basic data or even share it effectively, things like, say, soil types, yield history, verified farm identities, well, then you just can't plan properly. You can't coordinate. And this inability to coordinate, that leads us straight to this big international response. The Commonwealth Secretariat's NAgDI initiative, that's National Agricultural Data Infrastructure.
Launched back in September 2023.
Exactly. And we need to be super clear about what NAgDI is and isn't. It's not, a software package you install. It's more of a comprehensive approach. Think of it like a blueprint. It's designed to help countries actually implement and harmonize specific digital public infrastructures, DPIs, focused specifically on managing agricultural data.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. We're going to unpack that blueprint. We're looking at how countries can hopefully move from this chaotic data mess to a more coordinated system, one that could boost resilience, make them more competitive. So for you listening, this is really about understanding a pretty fundamental shift needed to make global food security truly data-driven. Okay, let's get into the costs first. What's the damage from the current fragmented system?
Well, the costs they're significant and they're immediate. Sources point to big operational inefficiencies, higher costs, actual revenue losses.
Right, but it goes beyond just the operational stuff, doesn't it? It hits trade, investment.
Oh, absolutely. It creates this kind of data friction, almost like a hidden tax on doing business across borders. Makes everything slower, harder.
And that friction, it must seep into the big global challenges too. Climate change, sustainability.
Exactly. When your data is fragmented, unreliable, you miss vital chances for climate adaptation. Governments struggle to track land use accurately or water resources. Progress on sustainability goals becomes incredibly difficult to measure, let alone achieve.
And what about the smaller players, the startups, the MSMEs?
They really struggle. Often, they're the ones driving local innovation in farming, but without verifiable historical data proof of yields, practices getting funding is tough. Investors need reliable data.
Okay, so that sets the stage for the NAgDI framework. It's trying to fix this. And it's interesting looking at its components. It's not just about tech, is it?
No, not at all. And that's key. It has four main parts. One is systems and technologies, obviously. But then there's principles and policies, then, interestingly, marketing and business, and finally, governance and administration.
That marketing and business bit jumps out. Why include that?
Well, I think it's quite telling. It signals that this isn't just a technical exercise. It acknowledges that for these data systems to actually work and be adopted, they need to be economically viable. There have to be real incentives, a business case, not just good intentions.
Makes sense.
But if you pull back and look at the potential transformation if this works, it's pretty dramatic. Think about investment confidence, for instance. NAgDI aims to build that foundation for independent, secure data verification.
So a small farm could actually prove its track record.
Precisely. Prove its yields, its compliance with environmental standards, whatever's needed. When you can do that reliably, the perceived risk for lenders, for investors, it just plummets.
Which unlocks finance for those MSMEs we mentioned.
Exactly. Crucial for scaling up.
And you mentioned governments navigating regulations. How does NAgDI help there, like with those big external rules, say, from the EU?
Right, like the EU deforestation regulation, the EUDR. That's a perfect example. EUDR demands verifiable proof that imported products haven't caused deforestation.
Which sounds simple, but must be incredibly hard to prove from afar.
It is, especially without a solid national data system. How do you credibly trace coffee beans or cocoa back to a specific plot and prove its history? It's incredibly difficult and expensive without interoperable, trusted data infrastructure. A working NAgDI essentially acts as that verification mechanism for the whole country's supply chain.
Okay. And the long-term vision, you mentioned a data superhighway.
Yeah, that's the big picture goal. The idea is that if countries build these NAgDIs based on common principles, they become interoperable. They could link up, creating this secure superhighway for data sharing, facilitating intra-regional trade, enabling better macro-level policy decisions across borders.
Shifting data from being this fragmented liability.
To a shared national or even regional asset, accessible, usable.
But okay, a superhighway sounds great. But how do we avoid it just becoming a private toll road? Lots of tech companies are involved here. This seems to lead us to the foundation. Digital public infrastructure, DPI. What are the actual building blocks here?
Right. So to understand NAgDI, you really need to grasp DPI. The definition that gained a lot of traction, especially around India's G20 presidency and supported by groups like the UNDP, breaks DPI down into three core parts, foundational components.
Okay, what are they?
First, digital identity. You need a way to uniquely and reliably identify everyone, or everything could be a person, a farm plot, a business.
Second.
Digital payments, secure, instant ways to move money.
And third.
Consent-based data sharing, and this one is absolutely key, especially for agriculture.
Let's unpack that third one a bit, consent-based data sharing. What does that mean in practice for, say, a farmer?
It means control. Granular control. So a farmer should be able, technically and legally, to say, okay, this specific ag tech startup, they can access my soil test results for the next 6 months to give me fertilizer advice.
Right.
But the farmer can also say, they cannot see my loan history or my off-farm income. It provides the rails for data sovereignty at the individual level.
Okay, so identity, payments, consent-based sharing, those are the three pillars. But lots of apps use those things. What makes DPI infrastructure, the I part?
Yeah, good question. The core difference is, well, inherent scalability and openness. A true DPI is designed using open standards, open APIs usually. This allows other people, private companies, NGOs, researchers, anyone to build their own applications and services on top of those core foundational blocks.
Ah, okay, like physical infrastructure.
Exactly the analogy. Think of roads. The government builds the road, that's the public infrastructure. But its value comes because anyone, taxis, delivery trucks, ride-sharing apps, can use that road to offer their services and build businesses.
Got it.
DPI provides that same kind of foundational layer, but for the digital world.
Okay, that clarifies the I. Now, the P public, this seems to be where things get a bit debated. Does public mean the government has to own and run everything?
Well, this sparks a real debate, and you see different viewpoints in the materials we looked at. One perspective, you often hear this from folks involved in, say, large-scale DPIs in South Asia, argues yes. Public means government-owned, funded by taxes, governed directly by law. The idea is this ensures equity, trust, nationwide reach.
Okay, government-led. What's the alternative view?
The alternative, often heard in policy circles focused more on fostering innovation, suggests public is less about ownership and more about orchestration and principles. In this view, the government acts as the guarantor, the trust anchor. It sets the rules of the game, ensuring fairness, inclusion, interoperability based on public interest principles.
But private actors could potentially build and manage parts of the infrastructure.
Exactly, under that public interest regulatory framework. The government provides the utility-like function, the market provides innovation and services on top.
This distinction feels really important for agriculture, doesn't it? It affects how quickly the private sector might jump in.
It's crucial. It shapes the incentives for adoption and innovation, get the rules right, and you could see a vibrant ecosystem develop. And this leads us nicely into how DPI is evolving. We're moving beyond just those broad foundational layers towards more sector-specific modular DPIs. And agriculture is a prime candidate. This is where we see theory meeting practice.
Okay, let's look at some examples then. Case studies. Rwanda's e-voucher system often comes up. How does that fit the DPI model?
It really does seem to function as a practical DPI building block, yeah. If you look at it, it integrates those core components we talked about. It uses a form of farmer digital identity. It enables digital payments for subsidies, but farmers can also top it up.
Right.
And the data generated is managed under a national data sharing policy, which implies a consent layer, though details matter there.
And who runs it? Is it public or private?
In Rwanda's case, it's state-owned, run by the Ministry of Agriculture, NAgDI, and the Rwanda Agriculture Board. And crucially, they've apparently made API access for private service providers either low-cost or free.
Intentionally trying to stimulate others to build on it.
Exactly, to grow the ecosystem. The government positions itself as that trust anchor, guaranteeing the core data and the fairness of the system.
Interesting. We also see examples cropping up at a more regional level. The sources use this term political geography. What does that mean exactly? It sounds a bit academic.
Hey, yeah, it does a bit. It basically just means scaling DPI within a specific subnational jurisdiction that has its own distinct policymaking power, like a state or a province.
Okay, so not just a random region, but one with its own government structures.
Right, a policy unit, and Himachal Pradesh in India is a good example here. They've rolled out a regional DPI called Sitara NF.
Sitara NF. What's notable about that one?
What's really interesting is how central the farmer is to the data process. Farmers themselves are the ones initiating changes to the data based on what's actually happening on their farms.
So the data quality should be higher.
Theoretically, yes, because it also involves this participatory review process. Farmers, local extension officers, even the public can review it. The idea is that the primary user, the farmer, has a vested interest in the data being accurate.
And that connects to another app from there, Himshikar.
Yes, Himshikar builds on that. It's essentially a mobile knowledge base. It provides info on natural farming techniques, drawing on government and university-validated data for things like optimal crop calendars.
And it's open access.
Globally accessible and free, apparently. It shows how you can take government-curated data built on a DPI foundation and package it into a useful service layer.
Okay, so we have government-led examples. Are there others?
Yeah, there are models outside direct government builds too. Look at the AgriData Cube in the Netherlands. This was actually put together by a research organization, Wageningen University. They essentially built a second DPI-like layer.
A second layer. On top of what?
On top of existing open-source government data sets, things like soil maps, weather data, remote sensing imagery.
Why bother building another layer? Why not just use the government data directly?
It came down to efficiency, really. They saw that every single company, every NGO, every researcher working with that data was basically rebuilding the same complex pipeline. To process it, clean it, standardize it, make it usable was hugely duplicative.
So the AgriData Cube provides that standardized process layer as a shared utility.
Exactly. It saves everyone from reinventing the wheel. It speeds up innovation because people can just access the ready-to-use data. And it provides clarity on data quality, benchmarks. It builds trust in the underlying data.
Right. This all sounds technically very advanced, very promising. But, we always hit the implementation hurdles. When you start talking about data sovereignty, interoperability, getting people to actually use it, that brings us smack into governance and trust.
The really thorny issues.
So where should the governance focus be? Is it about governing the data itself, or governing the infrastructure, the NAgDI pipes that carry the data?
That really is the core debate, isn't it? The governance battle. One camp argues strongly that governance needs to apply primarily to the underlying data. You focus on protecting farmer privacy, ensuring robust opt-in consent mechanisms, maybe using frameworks like GDPR from Europe as a potential model, even if adapted.
Okay, focus on the content. What's the other side?
The counter-argument, and it's quite nuanced, says you absolutely must focus on governing the infrastructure itself, the NAgDI system. Proponents of this view argue that just focusing on data governance while ignoring the governance of the resource infrastructure holding it, well, they just say that's misapplying the term infrastructure.
Yeah. Can we try that water analogy again? How does that apply here?
Okay, yeah. So governing the water infrastructure means managing the pipes, the treatment plants, the reservoirs, ensuring the system runs reliably, fairly, accessibly.
Right, the physical network.
Governing the data, or the water itself in the analogy, is about its quality, who gets to use it, for what purposes, ensuring it's safe to drink, basically.
Both are needed, but they're different tasks.
Exactly. They require different rules, different bodies, different capacities. You need both, but you can't complete them.
And that complexity, that's probably why real-world rollouts get stuck. We heard about challenges, I think, from East Africa regarding data exchange attempts.
Yes, reports from institutions involved there highlighted some successes, but also major roadblocks. They managed internal data sharing between government ministries pretty well, linking up different departments via a national data exchange to speed up things like issuing export permits. That worked.
But the problems start when you try to share outside government.
That's where the friction really hits. Trying to share that same trusted government data commercially with the private sector, suddenly, issues of data safeguards, liability, commercial incentives, even just the willingness to share, they become huge hurdles. The tech might be ready, but the rest isn't.
Which just hammers home that point experts keep making. Data exchange isn't just about the digital tools.
Not at all.
It takes people. It takes the right institutions, the right policies, and critically, the right incentives to make everyone want to participate.
Precisely. The human and institutional layers are often the hardest.
So how do you overcome that inertia? Any practical strategies emerging?
Well, two interesting approaches are mentioned. One is quite pragmatic, the +1 approach. Yeah, the idea is don't try to boil the ocean. Just start by linking your data system with one other relevant institution's data. Start small, demonstrate immediate shared value, prove the concept works, and then build outwards from there.
Okay, incremental. What's the other approach? The NAgDI blueprint seems to favor something more structured.
Yes, the NAgDI proposal leans towards using a commodity approach.
Focusing on specific crops.
Exactly. Instead of attempting a massive nationwide agricultural data integration project all at once, which is incredibly complex, you focus on a specific high-value commodity chain,
Right.
like cocoa or coffee or cashews.
Why does that help?
Because it narrows the field. You're dealing with a more defined, smaller set of stakeholders, the farmers growing it, the processors, the exporters, the relevant government agencies. You can bring them together to build shared data infrastructure that directly addresses their specific needs and pain points within that value chain.
So the incentives for them to cooperate are much clearer and more immediate.
That's the idea. It provides tangible benefits quickly, potentially bypassing some of the broader regulatory logjams you'd face with a huge, all-encompassing project.
Okay, let's try and bring this all together then. We started with data fragmentation as this major strategic vulnerability, especially in agriculture. Then we explored NAgDI and DPI as this potential structural fix, a blueprint for building coordinated data systems. The ultimate aim seems to be turning data from a siloed problem into a shared public utility, something that unlocks economic opportunity, especially for farmers, and helps governments be more effective.
That is absolutely the aspiration, yes. And the DPI technology, the APIs, the digital identities, the payment rails, the consent layers, it provides the necessary scaffolding, gives us the tools. But the core challenge, the one that persists, is really about the human element. It's defining the right governance model that everyone can trust. And it's about creating and sustaining the right non-technological incentives for continuous participation. Why should people keep sharing their data? And this, I think, leads to a really important question for you, the listener, to consider. Given that effective agricultural DPI has to be highly localized, it depends on specific farm conditions, local practices, and its success hinges entirely on getting a continuous flow of accurate digitized data. What is the single most important non-tech incentive needed? Is it giving communities ownership of the data? Is it direct financial rewards for sharing data? Or maybe a clear legal mandate? What will it actually take to convince millions of individual farmers, farmer groups, local organizations to continuously trust the system, share their data, and keep it updated? That's something worth mulling over as we see these DPI concepts being tested and deployed around the world.
That is a powerful thought to end on. Finding that key incentive. Okay, that's a wrap on this deep dive.